matter if the form is filled out by hand or computer, or whether you do it at the local child support agency or at your home. The important thing is that all documents, including the income and expense declaration, are completed to the best of your ability. If you have questions, your local child support agency will be happy to help. You can find contact information for your local child support agency on the California Child Support Services website at childsupport.ca.gov or by calling 1-866-901-3212.
Good afternoon and welcome to San Bernardino County's Child Support Services Modification Town Hall. My name is Jennifer Mena and I'm a supervising child support specialist. I'll be your host today as we dive into the world of modification. This is our third town hall. Prior to COVID, our outreach team was hitting the streets and we were in your neighborhoods like at your local libraries and we were answering your questions. We had job fairs in our parking lot and we were attending many community events. However, when the pandemic hit, we knew that was not possible with social distancing, but we knew that you needed us more than ever, and we want to continue to partner with you and meet your needs. So we created these town halls. Our first town hall took place 3 months ago, where we introduced ourselves to you. We explained what is child support, how we can help you, the why that motivates us, and we went over our pledge to you as our customers. And we discussed how we work each case with a holistic case management approach, which means we evaluate the entire case with each review, thoroughly looking at all options and taking the time to explain them to you. We basically treat each customer like it's our own and each case is our own. At our second town hall in November, we discussed the Compromise of Arrears program, also known as COPE. If anyone on this call today or watching this video owes back child support for a time period your child was on aid, please call us at 866-901-3212 or visit us at www.sbcounty.gov/DCSS and click on our live chat and let them know you are interested in the COAP program. If eligible, you may be able to waive up to 90% of your back due child support. If you're interested in watching any of these town halls or watching the videos that we had prior to you entering the room, visit us at our YouTube channel at Child Support Services, San Bernardino County. Now it's time to kick off this modification town hall. If you ask me, based on my 23 years of experience, this is one of the most important topics to know for 2 reasons. The first reason, you always want to know how your child support was established. What was used? What did I get credit for? I always tell customers it's like walking out of a car dealership and not knowing how your car payment got established. You would want to know, how much did they charge me for the car? What were my taxes? What interest rate did you use? Child support is just like that. You should know how your child support was calculated. And if you don't, call us at 866-901-3212 and we'd be happy to review your order with you and determine how it was calculated. If we were part of establishing the order, we should have a guideline calculator on file. The second reason why it's so important is if you don't know how your order was established, how will you ever know you had a change of circumstance? An example of this would be your order was established 3 years ago and you weren't paying a monthly premium amount, but now you are paying a medical monthly premium amount. That would be a change of circumstances. To go over this with you today, we have pulled an impressive 78 years worth of child support knowledge onto our panelists. We have, next slide please, Artika Chad, Child Support Specialist 2, Andrea Cardenas, Child Support Specialist, Jason McDonald, Child Support Assistant, and Dan Bell, a Child Support Attorney. Our agenda today, we are going to discuss, next slide please. We're going to discuss change of circumstance, knowing what they are and when should you pursue a modification. We're also going to discuss the income and expense, why this document is so important. We're going to talk about a guideline calculator, how are child support amounts determined? And we're also going to talk about legal resolution. Once you ask for a modification, how do we resolve these requests? Lastly, we're going to open it up for a live Q&A with you. I'm now going to hand this over to Jason McDonald, who's going to talk to you all about change of circumstances.
All right, hello everyone. So before asking for a modification, you'll want to consider how you or the other party's circumstances have changed since the order was originally established. Unfortunately, we aren't able to tell you how a modification will turn out once you started the process. So, you could be going into this trying to lower your order and wind up having a raised or vice versa. So it's important to kind of come into this with your best judgment to determine if this is right for your situation. So now these are the most common changes in circumstances that we typically see here working here. So first we have you are laid off or fired from your job, you get a new or additional job, or your income and the other party's income increases or decreases. So now for these first three, these are particularly financial ones. You'll want to present us with what's called an income and expense declaration. Now, if you've never heard of that before, don't worry, we're going to kind of go into that more later on in the presentation. But what that basically means is a document that gives us kind of like a picture of your financial situation. And with those, you're going to be turning in things like pay stubs, taxes, possibly like an unemployment letter showing, how much, your unemployment is, or a letter from your employer saying that you've been let go. Those kind of documents that will kind of lean into that financial aspect of your life. Now, the other part of it is a custody or visitation changes. Let's say, you go to court and you wind up with more custody with your child, or you get like 50-50 or something like that. Presenting us with a court document that shows your current visitation schedule would be extremely helpful. But what we're really concerned with is the actuality of the situation. So what we'll be giving you is what's called a visitation verification form, which will basically be writing, how many hours per month you spend with your child. And in that instance, those are really important. So like, let's say you have a 50-50 court order, but in reality, maybe you spend 75% with your child. You have more time than that. So we want to see that documented time. If you're one of those situations where, let's say, every week your time is different, like, maybe one week you have 50 hours, the next week you have 100 hours, that kind of thing. Keeping a calendar or a written record for that would be really helpful for you, because then when it comes time to report that, you can have something to refer to. That way you're not stuck in a situation where you're like, oh, I don't remember what it was last week or this week, So that's always a good thing to just keep a physical track record of that. Let's say your family size changes. Maybe you have the birth of a child, or you marry into a new family and adopt kids. That's a huge, huge factor. You become disabled. In those instances, you might want to provide us with a letter from a doctor or the Social Security Administration showing your either pending disability or you qualify for it. If you go to jail or prison, or you're deployed to active military service. So definitely those are going to be instances where you want to let us know what's going on. And all of these, we may not be the first person you call when something major happens in your life. Like, if you lose your job or something like that, you may not be the first person we talk to, but you definitely want to keep us in on the loop, because we're not going to know when these major life changes happen to you. So letting us know, hey, you know what, this is my new circumstances, this is my new change. What can I do? How is this going to affect my support order? These are important questions you should be asking when these things happen. So to better understand how you communicate these changes to us, I'm going to hand it over to Artika, who will talk to you about the income and expense declaration form.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, everyone. My name is Artika, and as Jason mentioned, I will be covering the income and expense declaration during this town hall. So either party can request a modification review anytime there is a change in your circumstances. As Jason mentioned, he covered those circumstances with you. Should you encounter a change like that, all you have to do is contact our office, let us know that you would like your case reviewed for a modification. Once a modification is reviewed, both parties will receive a blank income and expense declaration in the mail. The income and expense declaration is also referred to as the FL-150 by the California Superior Court. In order for the LCSA to review the case for a modification, the party who requests the modification must provide their income and expense declaration. Ideally, we would like both parties to turn in their income and expense declaration. However, we can proceed with the review, providing that the party that requested the modification review turns in their documentation. Should the non-requesting party not turn in the documents, however, the requesting party does, we can still continue with the modification review. So what exactly is an income and expense declaration? An income and expense declaration is a 2-page front and back legal document where the parties report the following information. You guys will report your tax filing status on it, your employer, your current income, your expenses, your deductions, your assets, and your hardships. Please note, the parties must also attach verification of their income to the income and expense declaration. So let's say on the income and expense declaration, you are claiming that you pay $300 a month in medical expenses, health insurance costs that you pay to your employer, plus $200 a month for union dues. Now, what you want to do is report that information on the income and expense declaration, but you want to attach supporting documentation for those deductions. So obviously you would attach your paycheck stubs, which would show those deductions. Supporting documentation includes copies of your paycheck stubs, your unemployment award letter. For our self-employed customers, you want to include your tax documentation. So this would look like your 1099, your profit and loss statement. Obviously, for our customers that are receiving Social Security, you want to include a letter from the Social Security Administration showing what your monthly income may be. And for our veterans, if you're receiving veterans benefits, please include a copy of what your monthly veterans benefit is. So a few things that we want you to keep in mind. First of all, if you are the requesting party for the modification review, please keep in mind the important timeframes that will help us to move forward with your modification request. So first of all, you want to get your income and expense declaration along with your documentation turned into our office within 20 business days. Should the requesting party not turn in their documents along with the income and expense declaration within that 20-day time frame, the modification review will be denied. Along with that, we also want to let you know that the income and expense declaration is a legal document which will get filed in the courthouse. It's really important that the income and expense declaration is a current document. We want to provide our court with current information. So an income and expense declaration will stale date after 90 days. Stale dating basically means it has expired, the time frame has ran out, and if that does happen, the local child support agency will reach out to you and request that you turn in a new income and expense declaration. Also, let's just say when you request a modification review, because let's say you've been laid off of work, so you contact our office and you request a modification review, and we start the process. And let's say your employer calls you back to work 3 weeks later. At that point, you are required to let our agency know, and we will be requesting that you turn in a new income and expense declaration. The purpose of this is so we can accurately and correctly calculate your child support. Child support should always be based on what is the current happening as far as your finances are concerned. A few other tidbits we would like to offer you. First of all, because the income and expense declaration is a formal legal document, we ask that you complete it using blue or black ink only. Please remember, do not use whiteout on this document. If there is whiteout on it, the court may reject the request for a modification. So if you make a mistake on the income and expense declaration, please cross through the section that you may have incorrectly written down. Go ahead and initial it, and then right next to it, please indicate the correct information you wanted to put in. Also, on the bottom of the page 1 of the income and expense declaration, oftentimes we see that our customers will forget to date, print their name, and sign their name. That's located on the bottom of page 1. Should that happen, we will be returning the document back to you and asking you to date it, sign your name, and print your name. And obviously that's going to extend out how soon we can get an accurate order for you. So we understand that the income and expense declaration can be a little intimidating as far as completing it. We unfortunately cannot help you complete the document, but we do want to provide you with resources. So the first resource we want to provide you is the Family Law Facilitator's Office. If you go to our courthouse, within our courthouse is the Family Law Facilitator's Office, and they can definitely help you complete the income and expense declaration. We also want to refer you to our website. If you go to our website, there is a link where we are able to show you how to complete and accurately provide your income and information on your income and expense declaration. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andrea, who's going to let you know how all of this information is used in the guideline calculation.
Thank you, Artika. So again, I'm going to be going over the guideline calculation and how that is determined. So a guideline calculation is the calculation used to determine what your child support should be. The main information used to run a guideline calculation is each parent's income, as well as the time spent with the child or children. Some other information that is used to run a guideline calculation are payroll deductions like health insurance and union dues, and hardship deductions like if you have any other biological or adopted children residing in your home. Some information that cannot be used for purposes of running a guideline calculation are things such as rent, car payments, and credit card payments. As Artika indicated, both parties will receive an income and expense declaration to complete and return. And it's very important that these are returned with your proof of income and any other verifications to ensure we are able to run an accurate guideline calculation. Both parties will have an opportunity to review these calculations, as a copy will be mailed to you. This is the time for you to ask questions. If you are not sure what you're looking at, you're unsure where the numbers came from, absolutely contact your case manager, and they will go over the documentation and the numbers with you so you fully understand what information was used. Do keep in mind these proposed guidelines are only a proposed amount until either the court makes them a court order or the parties come to an agreement and sign a stipulation. If you're unsure if modification is something you'd like to do, you can access the child support calculator on the website at childsupport.ca.gov and run your own estimated guideline calculation. And the reason we say estimated is unless you have both parties' full information in front of you, the guideline calculation may not be accurate. So you do want to understand that it is going to be an estimate, but it might give you a better idea if a modification is going to be right for you at this time. So next I'll be going over the legal resolution for the modification process. Excuse me. So as previously mentioned, the guideline calculation is only a proposed amount until either the court makes it a court order or the parties come to an agreement and sign a stipulation. The quickest and easiest resolution for the modification process is the stipulation. So a stipulation is a legal agreement that's filed with the court that either changes or modifies your existing court order. By signing this document, it also eliminates the need for you to actually appear at court because it does resolve your modification process. So if both parties would like to sign a stipulation, you just need to get in contact with your case manager and they can go ahead and prepare the documentation for both of you to sign. And the courts have made things a lot easier and are now accepting electronic signatures. So what that means is once the case manager generates the documentation, they will email a copy to both parties. You will sign it electronically. You will send those back, and then we will get those prepared and filed for you. So again, this eliminates the need for either party to appear in person to sign them, and again, eliminates your need to appear in court. In the event an agreement cannot be made, then the parties will need to prepare for a court hearing. A notice to appear in court will be sent to both parties that will include the date, time, and location of your hearing, along with all the documentation you need to have filed prior to your hearing date, and it must be filed directly with the court. A few weeks prior to your hearing, you will also be contacted by one of our court representatives, and this will be called a meet and confer. At this time, they're going to be gathering any new information you may have, any changes that may have occurred since the previous guideline calculation was ran. They will also attempt to try to obtain a stipulation between the parties during this time. If an agreement cannot be reached, then of course the parties will need to appear at the hearing. So just a few quick reminders. Either parent associated with the order or the legal guardian can request a modification from your local child support agency. Just remember that it can go up or down, and there's no guarantee it will increase or decrease. And we will have no idea if it will increase or decrease until we are able to gather all of that information and run those guideline calculations. There is no fee for requesting a modification. So there's no fee for us to send you the documentation. There is also no fee to have the documentation filed for you. So the modification process is a free process to you. And there are instances where we may have to deny your request. So for example, if you had a court order that was established a few months ago, and for whatever reason you feel that it should either be increased or decreased, but you do not show any change in circumstances, so nothing has changed, no income has changed, we may have to deny that request because we do need to prove a change in circumstance, or you need to prove a change in circumstance in order for us to proceed with the review. However, you always have the opportunity to file your own motion directly with the court. And you can visit the family law facilitator at the courthouse, and they can assist you in getting those motions filed. You can also visit the San Bernardino County Superior Court website. They have a self-help section and also have the documentation available for San Bernardino County to file directly with the court. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Jennifer.
This is the end of our presentation part of the town hall, and we're now going to open it up for your questions. If you have a question, in the lower right-hand corner, you'll have a spot where you can type in your question now. Due to case confidentiality and privacy, we'll not be able to answer specific case related questions, but at the end of the Q&A, we'll let you know how you can get those question answers. We haven't heard from Dan yet, so I'm going to turn this over to Dan so he can answer some of the questions that were assigned to him.
Hi, here I am. All right, here's a question. What if the other parent is working under the table? What do I do then? The real question here is not what do you do? The question is how do you prove how much they're earning? And there are a number of things you can do. One of the most common is their social media posts. So if they're posting things that they're doing that generate income, that can be presented to the court as an admission against interest by the party. So for example, the other day I had a case in court, and the parent obligated to pay support was a tattoo artist, and he said, oh, I haven't done any work since COVID. And mother responded with printouts of his social media page showing tattoos that he had just finished. It was wonderful. He had to try to explain suddenly with no preparation how that was not evidence that he was actually working and had an obligation to pay support. Another customer had a similar problem and hired a private investigator who took pictures of the parent obligated to pay support, leaving for work every morning for a week in a work truck. And that went a long way to proving what that obligor didn't want to admit. So those are options, and there are other things you can do. Probably the best thing you can do is hire an attorney to see what are the best options for filing a modification or enforcing a support order. That brings me to the second question. What if the other parent is self-employed? Well, self-employed persons have an obligation to pay taxes and file tax returns. And if they do file tax returns, because the Internal Revenue Service and the Franchise Tax Board share information with the Department of Child Support Services, we will be able to see those reported income amounts and prove income from that method. If, unfortunately, they choose not to pay their taxes and not file tax returns, then you're in the same position as the first question. You have to show that they're working, show what they're earning, and what kind of work they're doing, and those sorts of things with either their own admissions, and sometimes you can use text messages and emails and that sort of thing. But social media is fast becoming one of the quickest and easiest ways to find evidence that someone is working. Let me pass it back to Jennifer for someone else to answer questions.
I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Jason. I see, Jason, you have a few questions in the queue as well assigned to you.
Yes. So we called the office and both agreed to $300 a month. Why can't you just adjust it based on our agreement? So first of all, when we start a modification process, we need to make sure that we are presenting both parties with a guideline calculation. So we have to kind of run through a lot of the early steps, getting the income and expense declaration, all that kind of basic stuff. And then once, we can potentially come to an agreement based on parents' mutual agreement or by having the matter determined in a child support hearing. Either way, any modification to the child support order will require a court approval to be a valid finalized order. So informal agreements or notarized letters saying this is the agreement we came to together are not binding agreements, and we wouldn't consider those as orders. We can't just go based off of that. So if both parents agree to support, please contact our offices so we can discuss the next steps. My next question here. My husband is paying child support from a previous marriage. We have a baby on the way and are really struggling to make ends meet and pay the ordered support. Will his child support change once our baby is born? So congratulations on having a new child. And yes, a new baby is a change of circumstances and a reason for a child support modification. So your husband will want to ask for a modification once the child is born now. That's the important part. Once the child is born, then we can address the child.
So it looks like I have a few questions as well. The first question I have is, how can I submit a change on my income online based on my new job when my job ends at 4 o'clock and the offices are closed before I can turn in my documents with the office? Can we send information over the internet to file the FL 150? So a few things here. Our office is currently closed due to the pandemic. However, we do have a drop box outside each one of our locations, located in Loma Linda, Ontario, and Victorville. So should you need to turn in your income and expense declaration along with your supporting documentation, and let's say you are unable to leave work, you can always drop off your documents in our drop box located outside of our offices. Someone will check those boxes every day, Monday through Friday. Looks like the other question I have is, what do I need to prove to have my child support modified? As stated earlier, you would need to turn in your income and expense declaration and those supporting documentations that we discussed, which includes your paycheck stubs, your unemployment letter, your tax documents, Social Security award letter, or your veterans benefits.
Okay, I have a few questions as well. So one of my first questions is, if I don't live in the same county as the child, where do I modify my child support? So it would really depend on if you have a child support case open. If you do have a child support case open, you definitely want to contact your case manager or the 866-901-3212 number to get in contact with the county that's managing your case at this time. That way they can let you know specifically what you would need to do in regards to your modification. If you don't have a case open, you really want to go where the court order initiated. So wherever the order, if it was from LA County, you're going to want to go to LA County. So if you already have that existing order, you're just going to follow wherever that order is. But again, if you already have a child support case open, you definitely want to contact the office and they can point you in the right direction at that point. Another question I have is, how can I change my visitation amount? So visitation cannot be handled through the child support office. We do ask for the information for purposes of running the guideline calculation. However, we have no ability to either make or change orders in regards to custody visitation. So if you do have any issues regarding your custody visitation, you definitely want to visit the family law courthouse and speak with the family law facilitator to assist in either helping you modify your existing visitation order or to obtain a new one. I believe Dan may have a few more questions that he needs to answer.
Yes, let me talk quickly about when you've remarried. You've remarried and your stepchildren living in the home, but do you get credit for the stepchildren who are living in your home and being supported in your home? And the answer is yes and no. The children do not. It has to do with who has the legal responsibility to support those children. California law specifically states that both parents of a child have an equal obligation to the extent of their ability to support a child. So as a step parent, you don't have any legal obligation to support that child. So you don't get a credit or a hardship deduction for supporting a stepchild like you would with a biological child living in your home. On the other hand, if you're remarried and filing jointly and you have stepchildren in the home, those stepchildren are included for the purposes of calculating your tax obligation. So if you have 3 children in the home and you're getting 3 tax exemptions for those children on your tax returns, that would be included in the calculation, but you do not get a hardship deduction for those children. And next question, similar, slightly different. If I'm remarried, will my new spouse be obligated to, if my new spouse has income, will the new spouse be obligated to pay support to my children, or will my ex-spouse's new spouse have an obligation to support the children? And the answer is, again, no, but to the extent that the new spouse income impacts your taxable income, that spouse's income will be included in the guideline calculation. So if your new spouse earns $150,000 a year, that puts you into the highest tax bracket, and your net income is actually reduced because your new spouse puts you into such a high tax bracket, and your child support obligation is actually reduced because your new spouse has a high income. The new spouse has no obligation to support any children not of their own, but their income does impact your taxable net income. So to that extent, the new spouse income does have an impact in the guideline calculation.
I actually have a few questions as well. I have some where it looks like it's kind of a group of texts, kind of grouped all together. A lot of you guys are asking about what happens if you live out of state. If you live out of state, you can definitely request a modification through our office. You would contact us at the 866-901-3212. It would still be the same process. We'd send you the income and expense. If both parties agree to the new guideline amount, we can send you an electronic stipulation for you to sign. And if some reason you have to go to court, you may be able to appear by phone. So I definitely would suggest that if your concerns is that you live out of state, give us a call so we can look a little further into your case. The other question I have, which seems to be frequently asked, is we're asking about past change of circumstances. So maybe something that you had last year, but you don't have it anymore. As Jason said, we may not be your first call, but we definitely want to be your second or third because it's really important because child support doesn't go backwards. So if you are in the middle of a change of circumstances, I have one where someone may become incarcerated, contact us now so we can start looking at your case. If you become unemployed, we should be your second or third call because we really want to modify your order in real time. We can definitely initiate that. So, but unfortunately, we don't go backwards in child support. We're coming up to almost the end of this. I want to give each panelist one more time around to answer your important questions. So I'm going to kick it off with Jason.
All right. So here's a question here. My child support went up and I don't want to proceed. Can I stop the process? That's a great question. Yeah, sometimes you will request a modification and unfortunately the result may not be what you would like. Both, you can stop the process, but both parents will need to put in writing that they would not want to continue the process. So it wouldn't just be you saying, I'm going to stop here. It would have to be both parents. Let's see. Another question. What should I do to prepare for court? So very good one to know. When you're preparing for your modification hearing, be diligent about opening all the documents that you're receiving. You'd be surprised how many people just ignore documents that come to them. A lot of them are going to have information related to the day you go to court or documents saying, hey, this is what you need to provide us on the day of court. Bring this with you. Make sure you check your mail because there's going to be stuff about court in there that's going to be really helpful to you. You can visit our website at www.sbcounty.gov/DCSS, and there will be a link called Information About Court, where you can get helpful tips for appearing in court and what you should bring with you. Kind of just goes over the day and gives you good tips on just how to be prepared. That would be your best source. All right, that's all I have.
Okay, so I will go ahead and take the next few questions. The first question I have is, if you fail to turn in your income and expense declaration, how soon can you request another modification? So let's say you asked for a modification and it got denied because you failed to turn in your documents. When you get your denial notice, you can call us immediately and request another modification review, and we will start that again for you. So just keep in mind, turn in your documents as soon as possible. We'd like to get an accurate order for the parties on the case as soon as possible. The quicker you turn in your documents, obviously, the quicker we can resolve this matter for you. The second question I have, how long does it take to get a response from your caseworker once you turn in your income and expense declaration? So timeframes vary. We typically would like both parties to turn in their income and expense declaration, so we will allow for time for the other party to turn in their income and expense declaration within that 20-day business days timeframe. Should the other party not turn in their documents and you do, after that timeframe is up, it would take us another approximately 30 days to get a response to you. We'll review your case and we will contact you with the guideline results.
Okay, and I have a final question as well. If my income increases, will you automatically change my order based on my increased income? No, we will not. If either party finds that there's a change in circumstance, either with yourself or the other party, it is the responsibility of the parties on the order to report that information and request the modification. So if there are any changes for either of you, you want to go ahead and contact us as soon as possible. That way we can look into possibly doing that modification. Or again, if you are unsure if a modification is what you'd like to do, because again, we cannot guarantee if it'll increase or decrease until we run those calculations, you can visit the website at childsupport.ca.gov and run those calculations, those estimated guideline calculations yourself on the website. And then I will go ahead and throw it back to Jennifer.
Dan, do you have one last question for us today?
I have a couple of questions that have to do with visitation. What if the other parent doesn't allow me to visit with my children? Or what if my teenage daughter doesn't want to come visit with me? Or what if I have 50-50 custody? Those are all sort of related to visitation. First, with the other parent who is alienating the children, or if a teenage child is refusing to come visitation, to allow you to exercise visitation, what do you do? And frankly, that has nothing to do with child support. You have a responsibility to enforce your own visitation orders and exercise those orders, and the family court is available to help you with that. It's a sad fact that probably 80% of persons who have a divorce end up estranged from their children in one way or another, especially if they're not living in your home. And so the family law courts have reunification therapies. They will refer you for counseling. They will arrange for opportunities for you to exercise visitation and to reestablish a good, strong relationship with your children so that you're actually getting your support. As far as child support is concerned, if you're not getting any visitation, let me approach it from the opposite direction. If you are getting visitation, in the child support calculation, you're given a mathematical reduction in the child support obligation because the courts assume that you are spending money on those children when they're visiting with you in your home. If you're not actually exercising any of your visitation for whatever reason, then the court will not give you that reduction. If you're not spending any money on the children when they're visiting in your home, in your custody, then there isn't any reason to give a reduction in the support. So it's vitally important for someone who owes a child support obligation to make sure that they are getting and exercising their rights to visitation with the children. Number one, there's a benefit in the child support, but number two, there's a benefit long-term for your relationship with that child. If the child doesn't see you for years and years, they're going to start to think that you don't care. And that's not true. That just means that you're not given many opportunities to visit. The next question that I really want to talk about is, what if I have 50-50 custody? Why would I still have to pay child support? And that one is a complicated sort of answer. Each parent has an equal obligation to support children in their home. So if you have an equal timeshare and you have equal incomes, then your child support obligation would be zero. The problem arises when one party's income is much higher than the other. That party ends up paying the other party support for the children when they share equal amounts of time. If your incomes are equal, then each of you is responsible for supporting the child while the child is in your home. If your income is much higher than the other party's, then the child has the right to benefit from the higher income that you enjoy, even when the child is living in the other parent's home. So that's why there would still be a child support order, even though you may have equal timeshare. And the same thing is true if you have primary physical custody. I had a case years ago where mother was an airline stewardess and earned $60,000 a year. Father had primary physical custody of their teenage son, and mother had alternate weekend visitation. But father still had a child support obligation to pay to mother, even though the child was only visiting with mother every other weekend. But what you don't know is that father, who had primary custody, was making $200,000 a year. And so when the child was in his home, he enjoyed a very comfortable lifestyle, and he has the right to benefit from that income even when he's in the other parent's home. So there's my responses on the custody and visitation.
Thank you very much, Dan. Well, I'm going to do one last question and then we're going to wrap it up. I see a lot of questions about change of circumstances. It could be loss of income, change of visitation, change of custody, a new job, new children born outside of this relationship. Those are all reasons to modify your order. That would be a change of circumstances. So what I would suggest is that you definitely visit our guideline calculator on the state website that Andrea spoke about. And if you want to proceed with the modification, go ahead and contact our office and we'll initiate that for you. If we didn't have a chance to answer your question today, you'll receive a survey. Please fill in your name and telephone number, and we'll be happy to contact you back to discuss your specific question. You can also contact us at 866-901-3212, the live chat on our website, or by emailing us at childsupport@css.sbcounty.gov, and we'd be happy to assist you. I want to thank you all for allowing us to come to your home today, well, at least virtually, and taking the time out of your busy day to allow us to partner with you. If you'd like to learn more about upcoming events, please visit us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube and like us. And be sure to share our posts so you can help your family members that couldn't attend. Thank you and be safe.